Officer Derek Chauvin is charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter in George Floyd's death. Community activist and social media influencer Deray McKesson is a leading voice. He's calling for reform in police departments across the country because of police shootings of African Americans. I talked with him this afternoon about today's arrest and what changes we should be pushing for at this point.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so remember that in Minneapolis, this is the first time an officer has ever been convicted or charged for killing a Black person, which is sort of interesting. In Minneapolis, about half of the police who are fired get rehired. And in Minneapolis, remember that the chokeholds actually aren't even banned. So when we think about the question is like, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Will he be convicted? Who knows? Only 1% of officers who get charged get convicted. So it is, you know, it will be a crapshoot to see what happens with this case, especially because chokeholds are not banned in Minneapolis. So I expect the police to put a use of force expert on the stand to say that he did not violate policy, that he made a mistake, that there was like a minor mistake, and that it led to a death, which was unfortunate, but he will make the argument that he did not violate the policy. Body cameras have no impact. Training, whether implicit bias or mental health training, both have no impact. Hiring more Black police officers has no impact, and community policing has no impact. And these are arguably the four most popular solutions that people point to. The two things that have impact are the rules around when the police can kill people, and then the rules around accountability. So imagine if you had a job and you knew that the worst thing that could happen to you when you did something wrong was that you got a reprimand. That is the police.